free to rearrange it any way you want. And that's what Lana can help you do, just to rearrange the stuff. So in March we've been talking about growth, and today our topic is whither goest thou? Now that sounds like it could be the obligatory goal-setting talk, doesn't it? Yeah. I'm not so much interested in where we're going as how we're getting there, as the reading so eloquently pointed out this morning. It's how we be on the path to where we're going. Madam Chairman, I rise on a point of order. Have you heard that? Parliamentary procedure. You can do that if you sit in Parliament when you think something needs to be corrected. When something's gone astray, we're not following the rules, we're not doing it right, somebody's talking about something that's not on the agenda, heaven forbid. And you can stand up and you say, Madam Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I rise on a point of order. Robert's Rule says, a member of Parliament has the right to call to order if necessary, and a point of order can interrupt a speaker. It is raised to ensure orderly procedure, particularly where there is a breach or violation of rules or bylaws, or when a member is not speaking on the motion before the House. I've been to meetings like that, have you? I've served on a lot of boards of directors and boards of trustees, and for the most part, we've all been volunteers, giving up our time. I haven't had a whole lot of training in parliamentary procedure, and sometimes the conversation just kind of goes all over the place, right? Usually happens when I'm the one who wants to get home early. But that happens, and sometimes my life kind of feels like that too, right? We just kind of got led down some cul-de-sacs and sidetracked, and we got called off our agenda a little bit. So we can do that. We can stand up and say, Madam Chairman, I rise on a point of order. You're off track here. We can do that to ourselves. So, I don't know about you, but as I say, my whole life looks like this sometimes. I need to stand up and say to myself, I rise on a point of order. I'm off track, I'm off purpose, I've forgotten my goals. But you've probably heard me say before that I'm a little ambivalent about goal setting. Terry Cole Whitaker has a wonderful phrase that you've got to have goals because if you don't know where you're going, how will you know when you get there? And that's true. But for me, goal setting almost is a little bit like a negative affirmation. When I set a goal for something, it's almost like I'm saying, I need to get this, I need to have that, I need to be this, and then I'm not already perfect. You see the little dichotomy that's going on in my mind, that little controversy? It's almost like we're making a negative affirmation when we set goals. So do we really need goals? Do we really need a purpose in life? I think we do, because it's our natural tendency to set them. So where do we find that balance? And yet I know people who seem to have no purpose in life whatsoever. Have you ever met those? I've in the past worked with teenagers quite a bit in musical theater. And I know one young man who I knew very well, and the day after school let out for the summer, he stayed in bed till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then he got up and had something to eat, and he watched some TV and had something to eat, and then listened to some music and had something to eat, and on like that. And that would be a great thing to do the first day school lets out, right? But he did that every day through the summer holidays. When September came and he had 4 hours of classes to get to, he was totally stressed out. You know what I'm saying? And I'd say to him, are you going to audition for the play this year? And he'd say, oh, I don't know, I'll have to wait and see what my workload is. He'd say, you're in high school, for crying out loud. And it's my senior year, I have to get ready for grad. Like, come on, get with it. Let's have some more purpose, some more goals in our life. But, I'm always a little suspicious of people who have the time to tell you how busy they are, but they don't have, anyway. So this all goes back to having a purpose and a goal and staying on track, staying on our agenda. What's the point of having a goal? What's the point of having a goal? What's the purpose of our lives? Well, consider this. Maybe there is no purpose. Maybe there is no point. Maybe the kid lying on the couch being a couch potato is just as valuable and perfect in the mind of God as the person who's out hustling meetings every night of the week to make a difference in their community and make the world a better place. Can you consider that? And I know that's true. Because the nature of God is to not judge, but to give us free will, freedom to choose what we choose to do. And God just loves unconditionally. Because that's what God is. It's love. God doesn't know how to not love. God doesn't know how to judge that I'm a better person than that person. Now, so what's the reason then for having goals? What's the reason for even trying to do something bigger and better and to advance humanity and contribute? What's the reason for doing all that? Well, when it comes to it, there's only really one reason for doing anything, and that's that it makes you happy. Now that sounds selfish, doesn't it? And I've heard New Thoughts leaders say that our whole purpose in life is to be happy. And it loses its selfish tone when you realize what it is that can create happiness in you. See, some people can think they're happy lying on the couch watching TV. For me, that's probably the most stressful thing in the world after about 20 minutes. Some of us have to be doing something to be happy. Doesn't mean we're any better than the person who watches TV. Some of us have to be doing something to actualize ourselves, to rise up to be the best me I can be. Some of us don't want to be doing things for ourselves, want to be doing things for other people. Does that make them any better than the person who's improving himself? Or either of those any better than the person who's lying on the couch watching TV? Food for thought, isn't it? Or does it make me any better if I have my hair dyed because I'm worth it? You know that? We're all worth it, whether we're lying on the couch, whether we're having our hair dyed, pampering ourselves, whether we're looking after ourselves, advancing our own education, or serving the community. Because I think if we're really all one, we're all having this life experience together. We're all living into the same life experience and drawing out of it. We all have to have all those experiences so we can understand each other. We all have to experience being lazy slobs. And we all have to experience being self-directed super-achievers and go-getters. We all have to experience being rich, poor, male, female, black, white, good, bad. We all have to have all those experiences in order that we can recognize our unity and our oneness with all of life. So no matter what experience we're going through at this time, we're contributing to educating ourselves and to bringing ourselves into unity, to accumulating that experience that makes us all one. And that's regardless of the ethnicity, the gender, the judgments, the goodness or badness of us all. Totally irregardlessly. Right. Some of those big long words. So we're all being points of order right here where we are. Because we know what it is, on some level we know what it is we're meant to be doing right here and right now. And that's learning from each other. It's establishing connections. It's understanding each other's circumstances. Knowing that there but for the grace of God go I. Put me in the other man's moccasins and let me walk up the land. We actually are all living one life. I don't know about you, but that helps me feel better about my kids sometimes, yeah? Somebody once said, to every thesis there is an antithesis, and to this there is a synthesis. So an antithesis is an antithesis, the opposite, and to this there is a synthesis, a togetherness. So that's what we say so often here, that opposites are part of the one, right? A song we had from Eddie Watkins, that down is just the other side of up. Easy is the other side of tough. Bad is the other side of good. Being a lazy couch potato is the other side of being a self-directed being. All of it is part of each other. Drifting is just part of achieving our goals. And yet, we keep wanting to have goals. And I have a feeling that most of the people in this room have chosen to lead a life of activity, of contributing, and not to be couch potatoes most of the time, right? I've just got a feeling about us all here. And if that's what we want to do, then I think we need to at least have some sort of vaguely formed goal, don't we, or direction in our life. We need to set an agenda for ourselves, and we need to stick to our agenda. So when we start to drift off the agenda, we can get conscious and we can say to ourselves, Madam Chairman, I rise on a point of order. Remember I told you a couple of weeks ago about the speaker at conference who talked about Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jericho. And he was up there building the walls, and people kept coming to him and saying, oh, Nehemiah, you got to look after this, politics are happening, that. And Nehemiah finally said, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. And that's what we do when I call ourselves on a point of order. You are doing a great work. You are living a magnificent life. You cannot come down. Call yourself on that point of order. Now, a point of order does not require action by the assembly. So when you say, Madam Speaker, and who's Madam Speaker for our metaphor? It's all the chatter that's going on, right? The monkey mind, the busy business. You don't need to get the agreement of all that. Just the speaker. You yourselves are the one that say, right, back on track. You don't have to go out there for agreement of everybody else, whether you're on track or not. You make that choice yourself, and you set the wheels in motion to reactivate yourself. And you don't need agreement from the masses, from the Speaker of the House, or anybody but you. Just you. When you say, I'm back on the agenda, back on track, it's already done. Just bringing it up to consciousness, it's done. So again, the point of order can interrupt the speaker, and the point of order does not require a second. When you're in a meeting and you make a motion, somebody has to second it before you can talk about it. Point of order, it's only you, it's all yours. Nobody has to agree with you about what your agenda is. So what is this need to be doing things? Why is it that most of us can't lie on the couch for more than a day? Why is it we need to be doing things, to be creating? Well, to me, I think it arises for our yearning for home. My favorite movie of all time was E.T. E.T. Call Home. And that bumper sticker, just visiting this planet, yeah. We have a yearning to go home. Whether we call that a yearning for God or what it is. But in a way, we sense that we're kind of disconnected from our true selves. You know what I mean? That people who lie on the couch, maybe that is their path. But I have a feeling that people lie on the couch because they don't know how to get started on their agenda, on their path. They don't know that they have the ability within themselves to follow their path. And some of them don't even know that there is a path. But somehow we all have this kind of sense that there's something we're missing. Do you get that about life? There's just something we kind of overlooked somehow. There's just something else I'm supposed to know. You know what I'm saying? Anybody here ever feel like they were a little bit different? Not like the rest of my family, right? I don't fit in. I think everybody I've ever talked to in a group when it's come to, sharing time, whether it's a class or discussion group or self-help group, and we start talking about sharing, somebody will say, I just felt like I never fit in, and everybody else is going. And we all thought we were the only one who didn't fit in, but everybody has that experience that I don't fit in. So that's what our need is, to express ourselves, And society tries to convince ourselves that there is something wrong with us. There's a reason we don't fit in. It's because we lack something. Aldous Huxley said, advertising is the organized effort to extend and intensify craving. To extend and intensify craving. The working of that force, which is the principal cause of suffering and wrongdoing, and the greatest obstacle between the human soul and its divine ground. Hope nobody's in marketing here. Advertising. And most of our economy is geared towards that, isn't it? Convincing us that we're incomplete. And there's something that's missing is something. Well, it isn't a thing at all. It's our sense of unity, our sense of connection, our sense of purpose, our sense of knowing who we are. Our sense of knowing that we are whole and complete and perfect and magnificent. Right now, without doing anything. There's nothing to fix. The economy doesn't want us to know that, right? That's what's missing. And so I believe that the reason we come back to the knowledge of what that is from our creative efforts, our efforts to express ourselves. And I think we all have a talent in which we can express who we are. And it can be anything from the arts to athletics to whatever it is for you. We all have something special, some way to express who and what we are into the world. And we can use it when we create consciously. A lot of us think, I don't have any talents. And we have to discover it because everybody's got one. And when we become conscious of it, then we create into our world. And it's not just great works of art and music and great literature, but we're creating this life experience. Our own life experience. That's an act of our own creation. And we're all contributing to creating the common experience, the consciousness of humanity. We're always doing that. And the authentic artist is a bit of a rabble-rouser because she threatens the status quo, right? When we really express something creative and new. When one of us paints a beautiful picture, that's a clear drop of water into the muddy confusion of human life existence. Our lives get really muddy sometimes trying to understand. When one of us creates something beautiful, that's a drop of clear water. When somebody founds an organization that enhances life, that's another drop. When somebody says something that helps us laugh at each other, that's another drop. Every creative effort we take is another drop to clarify who we are, our understanding of who we are and who each other is. Creativity is a yearning for immortality. Right? What we create, what we leave behind, that's our yearning for immortality. To fill the emptiness of something missing, a yearning to return to God. And it's an expression of our spirituality. So usually when people are on a spiritual path, you notice there's a lot more artistic and creativityness about us. And when I say spirituality, I mean spirit that inspires us. And inspire is literally to breathe, right? So it inspires us. It really is what makes us alive. Ernest Holmes said this, I'll put on my glasses, about creativity. He said, "The universal mind contains all knowledge. It is the potential ultimate of all things. To it, all things are possible. To us, as much as possible as we can conceive according to law. Should all the wisdom of the universe be poured over us, we should yet receive only that which we are ready to understand. This is why some draw one type of knowledge and some another, and all from the same source, the source of all knowledge. The scientist discovers the principle of his science, the artist embodies the spirit of his art, the saint draws Christ into his being, all because they have courted the particular presence of some definite concept. Each state of consciousness taps the same source, but has a different receptivity. Each receives what he asks for according to his ability to embody. The universal is infinite. The possibility of differentiating is limitless." So whatever it is that we draw, I can't see you with my glasses on. I love Ernest Holmes. There are lots of more modern writers that are a little easier to read, but I love Ernest Holmes because he has such a poetic way of writing and such a naughty little sauciness sometimes. He said, "I have great respect for my opinions." I like that. I got a couple of quotes about creativity. Dante said, "Your art is, as it were, a grandchild of God." Nice. John Ruskin said, "All great art is the expression of man's delight in God's work, not in his own." So what is it that causes us to write poem and take pictures? It's an appreciation for God's work. And from James Gillis, "Art is revelation. If a painting shows only what is there, it is not art. Art, like fine music or high literature, must carry the beholder beyond this world and all that appears in it, transport him to the shores of the eternal world, and enable him to see and hear the things not given to the tongue of man to utter." So when we create, that's why the one time I tried to paint, I was painting a bay in the trees over there in a little red canoe, and I'm sitting here trying to, paint the needles on the pine tree, 300 feet away. No, it's not what's actually there that expresses it, it's that something else that takes us beyond that. A word of warning about Robert's Rules. Robert's Rules says, don't use your knowledge of parliamentary law to hinder business by constantly raising points of order and insisting upon the strict observance of every rule at a meeting in which you know the majority of the members have no knowledge of these rules. And we've all met those people too. But to translate that to our metaphor, it's like, don't be a spiritual snob. We've met spiritual snobs too, haven't we? Don't show off. Don't assume a greater virtue or some kind of superiority because you're spiritually more aware than the couch potato. It's that knowing who we all are and that we are all facets of the one. So, some people have no understanding of their own ability yet. Some people don't know yet that they are actually creating their own experience of life. And that when we take responsibility for that and get conscious for that, we can have a better experience and we can give a better experience to others. But some people don't know that yet. And they are just as beloved by the infinite as us enlightened beings, right? And the thing of, they don't need your agreement to their agenda either to be right and perfect the way they are. They don't need our judgments. They don't need our agreement. They have their agenda. We each have our agenda. So when we find ourselves in agreement and in harmony and in unity with this power that we call God, when we align ourselves, that when we and not only align ourselves, but then we stick to our own agenda in alignment with that power, and not try to bulldoze God into doing things. Deepak Chopra has a wonderful analogy in that we set our intention on the future and our attention on the now. So we set that intention, then we go about our business, stick to our agenda, knowing that we are in unity with the divine power and that it is supporting us in all we do. And then you will experience yourself as being even more of the amazing, wonderful, magnificent being that you already are. Namaste.